friends, welcome to one of the most exciting topics in this series. Today, we shall be learning in depth about the tools of an actor and the process of role analysis. Theatre is an important visual art which deals with real life and interacts directly with an audience. An actor is the only artist who uses his own body to represent life on the stage. Thus, we can agree that in the staging of a play, actor plays the most significant role. In order to live up to that responsibility, it is very important for the actor to prepare him or herself for any challenge and keep his or her tools polished and updated. Just as a warrior, if unaware of the tools hidden in his armor, stands the risk of losing a battle, so does an actor stands the risk of putting up an insincere performance. Therefore, an actor should not only be aware of his tools, he should also be aware of their technicalities and be trained enough to put them to effective use while preparing for any role. What are these tools? Mind, body, voice and property. Yes, these are the 4 tools of an actor. Here, the first 3 tools belong to the actor's self, whereas the 4th and the last, property, can further be extended to costumes, space or makeup, that is, any object or element that exists externally to the actor's body that might help the actor in approaching the character. All these 4 tools are fundamental elements which, when function in coordination, can lead to a flawless performance. But it requires great hard work, self-discipline and commitment to reach a stage where these 4 can work in unison in accordance to the actor's will. The actor shall really have to observe him or herself and undergo a detailed process with self-awareness in order to attain that state. This requires patient training. Let us now discuss in detail about the first tool of the actor, the mind. The human mind can be said to be an element, part, substance or process that reasons, thinks, feels, wills and perceives any external information or stimuli. Acting is not merely chanting of lines. It is a complex process of understanding another mind through the limited peripheries of one's own mind. To analyze and comprehend the conditionings of a character's mind, the thinking pattern, the experiences, the emotional responses, to discover a whole new mind is indeed a highly delicate task. An actor needs to go through his process every time a new character comes up. In order to execute this task, the actor needs to make sure that his or her own mind is stable and accepting. On stage, if an actor experiences only internal feelings or only physical actions, then the performance can said to be dead. The reasoning behind this goes back to the unison of the psychological and physical. The two go hand in hand. If an actor attempts to portray a character by employing one aspect of the union without the other, then they are performing incompletely. Internal experiences and their physical expression are unbreakably united, whether it is through facial expression or the tapping of a foot. Everything a human experiences psychologically is displayed through physical means. This is termed as psychophysical union. The correct physical action does not come automatically for every psychological response, nor do they stimulate identical responses for every individual. Many times, actors need to experiment until they determine what best works for them and for the character they are trying to portray. Decluttering and clearing space for the new character. An actor needs to be like water to fill any patra. One needs to be flexible enough, both physically as well as mentally, to fit into the skin of any character. This is a very important aspect of acting. At the same time, it is really difficult to achieve. One needs to be very open, welcoming and accepting. One needs to ensure that one is not already full of bottled up emotions or excitement or any other form of responses towards a particular thing. One needs to be free of all these. Each character brings its own world which inhabits the actor. Therefore, an actor needs to clear any clutters before he or she lets the character in. In theatre, we have many games and exercises to keep the mind agile and alert. For example, memory game. In this game, the actors sit in a circle. One of them begins the game by saying a word. This can be any random word, a thing or an object, an animal, etc. Let us assume that the actor uttered the word elephant. Now, the actor sitting on the right hand side of this actor is supposed to repeat the word elephant and then add another word to it. Say coconut. Now, the task of the third actor is to repeat the first two words in the same order, thereafter adding his own word, and so the game continues till one of the actor fails to reproduce all the words spoken before him or her in the same order. This game can turn out to be extremely interesting, as with the passing of time, the list of words keep on growing, making the task of remembering even more difficult. Similarly, we have other games to improve concentration, helping the mind to focus, while some games help strengthen the mind to be able to work simultaneously, efficiently. As during a performance, the mind is required to multitask, like responding to a co-actor on the stage, while at the same time remembering your next dialogue and move. Also, keeping in mind the stage placements and blocking, and the challenge of doing all this while being in the character. Let us now discuss about the next tool of the actor, the body. The body is one of the most fascinating and powerful element of communication and expression for an actor. Therefore, it is an actor's responsibility to ensure that utmost care is taken of it. Right from the details of what one eats to the sleeping pattern and daily life activities, everything comes under this category. It is important that an actor maintains a healthy lifestyle, eats nutritious food, sleeps well, and exercises regularly in order to keep the basic chemistry of the body right. Only a healthy body can tune in accordance to the requirements of the mind. Once the actor's body is ready, his or her journey into exploring the personality of the character begins. After understanding the character, one might draw several inferences about the inner and the outer of the character. At times, the inner shapes the outer, while at other times it is the opposite. For example, if a character is always conspiring, his face may have lines conveying his constant thought process. He may have bright eyes full of activity, while there is another character who has a tendency to exist in a fantasy world, might have hazy eyes, lost in wonderment, eyes that do not have a fixed gaze upon one particular thing. Thus, right from finding the character's internal build, the actor needs to develop and study a believable personality of the character. He or she needs to sculpt the characteristics of the character onto his or her body, understand the rhythm of the character's physical being, the way the character might walk, sit, express, move or flow on the performance space. Every little detail needs to be worked out. Let us now talk about the next important tool, voice and speech. Yes, speech is the major communication tool in almost all the performance, whether in the form of proper dialogues or mere expressions and syllables. It helps in communicating with the audience. There are certain points that one must remember in order to deliver one's speech with power. These are: number 1, clarity of speech. Every word should be clear and be paid attention to while being pronounced. In real life, we never care to finish our sentences, for the person in communication assumes the words on the basis of the core meaning, which somehow gets communicated. But here, the audience, as in most cases, is just a passive observer without directly getting involved in any sort of conversation with the actors. Moreover, most of the times, their presence is not ever acknowledged by the actor on stage. Thus, the responsibility on delivering the text adequately increases. Understanding the text. This is very important. The text is a story that has to be shown to the audience and not narrated, unless so desired. This has to be remembered at all times. It is very important to understand the text before attempting to deliver the dialogues. Finding the voice of the character. This does not mean that you necessarily need to come out with a different voice for each character. Instead, it only emphasizes the fact that one needs to pay attention to all the details of the character. How old is the character? Is his basic emotional tone that of a happy one or a gruff one? Does he have a habit of being angry? What pitch is the neutral pitch for the character? In order to be in a position of understanding and developing upon these points, one needs to be aware of the vocal apparatus, like the tone, pitch, volume, and resonators. An understanding of all these can lead the actor to experiment and explore various voice qualities and speech patterns, challenging one's own limitation. Here are some exercises to help actors warm up and train these vocal apparatus. Breath has an intricate relationship with voice. It is important to understand the relationship of the breath and the speech. In order to master the speech delivery, one needs to have control over one's own breath. Thus, in the following exercises, we shall learn breath control. Exercise 1. Breathe in deeply. Inhale through nose exhale in a count of 10, distributing your breath equally over all the numbers.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Exercise number 2. Stand straight in a relaxed pose. Now inhale deeply, then pant rapidly with your mouth open. Try to take out as much breath as possible. Do not inhale in between. After panting out several times, pause for a moment, then inhale deeply and repeat the cycle. Exercise number 3. Inhale deeply. Now exhale gradually while humming the air out. Go up one scale each time with each breath. Once the actor arrives on the right voice quality to go with the character, he/she is then free to experiment various speech patterns. Remember, speech is just like the internal song of the character, full of meaningful pauses, tuned to the rhythm of life itself. Let us now talk about the fourth tool, the external element. By external element, we mean the other elements used in the performance, for example, costume of the character, makeup, properties, or the performance space. Any of these can prove to be a tool for the actor, enabling him to get into the character. We can understand this by referring to our age-old traditional performances, which have elaborate makeup and costumes, enabling the actor to highlight the emotions on stage. Similarly, a much utilized technique practiced by actors is the process of involving oneself in some physical action. If executed successfully, this can result in a more truthful practice. The involvement of the physical self diverts the conscious self to an action and thus leading the subconscious to come to the surface. There is another important way in which introducing a property can help. Assume that an actor is speaking the dialogues at the same time he or she is doing any activity. The actor uses the same activity to communicate the inner thought or the subtext while still delivering the dialogues. For example, an actor has a scene where the character being played is feeling extreme anger inside for some reason. But on the outside, he or she has to speak dialogues contrary to that emotion. Instead of showing the anger directly in words, the actor can communicate it visually in the action, while still maintaining the calm in his voice. The action might be anything: cutting vegetables, hammering a nail, or something as gentle as painting. Another important aspect here is the relationship of the actor's body with the space. Even the space can give tremendous possibilities to the actor to explore newer threads leading to the character. Let us now talk about the process of role analysis. As we have already understood, acting is the communication of a feeling, thought, emotion, or idea by a performer to a spectator by means of a character. Thus, understanding the character is very important, as only then can the actor portray it truthfully. Now, the question arises, how can an actor develop a relationship with the character? Well, in order to develop the correct approach of portraying a character, one must keep the following points in mind. Breaking the ice. One needs to grow above one's subjective perspectives and look at life from a different perspective. One very important fact to keep in mind while preparing a character is, one should be ready to understand and accept the inner truth of the character. Only then can an actor organically enter the skin of any character. The actor needs to be careful that he or she does not judge the character as wrong or right while performing. Whether a character's action in a story or play are believed to be right or wrong by an actor in real life is entirely subjective to the actor and the conditioning of his mind by his life and other factors. This by no means should dominate the actor's relationship with the character. For example, suppose an actor has to play the role of a character who has committed an act of murder. Now, in real life, the actor may believe that killing someone is a horrendous crime and should never be committed. But when he is supposed to play the same character, he needs to strip his beliefs aside for a while and delve deeper into understanding the psychological reasons that motivated the character to commit that action. An actor who fails to do so cannot do justice to the character. This does not mean that the actor should change his beliefs or start defending the action of the character or start believing that killing someone is okay. Rather, by granting acceptance, I mean that the actor should, with an inherent knowledge of the wrongness of the action, try and approach towards the deliverance of the action through the character's state of mind. This might lead to a number of new realizations for the actor, providing him newer leads into the character. This leads us to the second point of role analysis, understanding the character. To achieve the state of mind just mentioned, one has to prepare one's mind to a level where one can train oneself to think, behave and react like the character itself. This can only be attained by extensive research and understanding of the character's background. Where is the character coming from? What are the social, economical, geographical conditionings of the character? What kind of a life has the character undergone? What experiences eventually shape them into the way you observe them act in the story or script? What incidents have affected their thinking process? How has it been affected? Why do they behave the way they are? What do they feel inside while behaving in the manner portrayed? What are their motivations? What are their inherent intentions? What are their desires? What kind of relationship does the character share with other characters in the story? An actor needs to really go through the script several times in order to find answers to all the above questions. A script mostly has enough information about a character from which an actor can formulate answers to all the above questions. In the circumstance where there is not enough information, the actor shall have to turn to different resources for information about the character. For example, while preparing for a historical play, one might find some information from history as well. Let's come to a point number 3, building a character. It's time for building the character on the basis of all the understanding developed till now. The actor now requires to develop a complete life person out from the text. This can be a very interesting process, nothing less than conceiving a life. Details for this point we have already discussed in the lecture under the topics of actor's tool, right from the correct body line for the character to the correct voice and speech pattern to costumes, makeup, everything goes into this. One needs to understand both the external as well as internal conflicts of the character at all moments, understanding the text as well as the subtext, the obvious as well as the hidden, in order to truly understand the character. There is an interesting game by the name of hot seating, played by a lot of theatre teams around the world to attain a better understanding of the character. In this, an actor sits on a chair pretending to be the character she is supposed to play, while the entire team sits opposite and interviews the character. The actor needs to reply all the questions from the character's perspective. This helps the actor build conviction. So, with this, we come to the end of today's lecture. I hope you enjoyed it, and I also hope this information would come in handy for you in future when you touch the magical space of performance, the stage. I wish you good luck and goodbye.